All right. Well, we are on. Hello, everybody.
Yeah,
What are we here to do?
we're here to talk about TV shows today.
Yeah. From what? From the best TV show bracket?
I've heard about that.
It's the official best TV show bracket.
Yeah.
It's, ironclad, this thing. Well, why don't we kick it off?
All right.
Just go right and kick it off.
So we've already talked about the first round and the winners there. So
Yeah.
this one we'll be talking about our second round matchups. We're gonna start seeing which shows are going on in the Sweet 16, and then just a reminder: the way we set this up so far, our brackets have been kind of like, hey, we seed you and you get put there, but we were a little concerned with just like dramas going up against comedies nonstop, and things like that. So half of it is comedy, where they're all face off against each other until the finals, and then the other half is drama. So you'll see just like dramas and genre pieces go up against each other, and comedies on the other side. So we're still on those going up against each other.
Right. We won't see a comedy versus a drama until the finals.
Unless
So-
you think like a show is really funny, even though like people die in it all the time.
Right. Sopranos got some jokes. Walking Dead's kind of hilarious.
It is.
Coral. I think those may be the best ones. The dramas that are supposed to be dramas that end up being comedies.
Yeah.
My buddy Neil, who he's Beats Bruce.
He's Neil of Beats Bruce.
Beats Bruce points of view. He highly recommended the new Saw movie because it's got Chris Rock in it,
Oh.
and he said it was one of those things where it's supposed to be scary horror, but it reads as like an SNL sketch all the way through because it's Chris Rock. I've never had to take Chris Rock seriously,
No.
especially in a horror setting.
Yeah.
So
That's funny.
I don't know. I went to watch it, but it's only available on one of them weird streamers that nobody has, like like an MGM Plus or
Jeez.
it's not even Paramount. It's like
Not even
MGM.
Paramount,
No,
yeah.
I felt like Paramount was the last.
This is the last straw.
It was my last straw.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, Prime Video, Netflix, HBO, Disney, Peacock. I'm like, all right, Peacock, you are.
It's like NBC channel, so like, okay, you give it a little leeway, and then they're like, just like a production studio in Hollywood was like, well, we got our own streaming service now, Paramount.
Yeah, Paramount. It's like, no. And they're like, well, we got all the South Parks. I'm like, that's my favorite show of all time. Still no. I'm being,
Ooh.
I know. I couldn't even do it because of South Park.
What would be the worst streaming service that might actually exist that you could imagine?
Don't hate me. Something that only streams anime.
Oh, those exist. Those for
Do
sure.
they? Okay.
I would say like Crunchyroll
Oh.
is, and actually like they were in the game early for like streaming, and a lot of times
Yeah.
it was like free, and it still might be like a free option.
Hmm.
Anime is just easier to get. No, but that's
Is Crunchyroll anime or is Crunchyroll a separate thing?
Crunchyroll is primarily anime as far as I
Okay.
know.
Okay.
A lot of stuff brought over from Japan.
Yeah. Anime is only something that I've never watched it. So it's foreign to me. It's like how someone who never grew up watching wrestling would probably view wrestling. They'd probably be like, tights,
Yeah.
fake characters. Wait, this is fake? They're not actually fighting?
Yeah, that
So
was
I
like
get-
you take this seriously. Though. You know these guys are faking it, but you take this seriously. Yeah.
Yeah. I this morning I was rewatching SmackDown, or not rewatch. I was watching the DVR version.
He watches all SmackDowns five
I watch
times
it
a
at least,
week.
yeah. And Cody Rhodes came out, and it was during the entrance, and I paused it, and I called my wife. I'm like, "Hey, Emily, come here. You gotta watch how cool this is." And then it's like da 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 da, and then the whole crowd goes wow, and I think that is just the coolest thing. 15, 20,000 people all screaming wow all at the same time. And she goes,
Yeah, that's the sound of someone that's like, that's what you want me to see?
didn't care. Did not care in the least
That's
about
funny.
all the crowd saying whoa at the same time. I don't know. Anyways, so we talk about our best TV show bracket. And by the way, if you've been following us to this point, this is our fourth bracket we've done. We did Best Actor, who the winner was
Thomas
Hanks. And we did Best Wrestler, who you'll have to go back. You'll have to watch the Stone Cold vs. Undertaker video.
Because the final video is not out yet to tell you who the winner is.
Comes out Monday, May 8th.
Yeah.
May the 8th be with you.
Mm.
We ran a separate one during March Madness. We did Best Basketball Player, like Best NBA Player. surprise, surprise, Michael Jordan
Larry
won
Bird.
that.
Oh, yeah. Larry Bird did go pretty deep, didn't he?
He went to the finals.
It was Bird versus
It was
Jordan?
Bird versus Jordan, which I was surprised because because he beat LeBron in the Elite Eight.
Larry Bird did.
Larry Bird beat LeBron in the Elite Eight. And I was like, okay, I know Larry Bird's awesome.
And there's a lot of LeBron haters.
Yeah.
Because he's a current player.
Fair.
Yeah.
But throw on a Larry Bird highlight video and then immediately follow it with a LeBron highlight video. It looks like high school basketball. Larry Bird was awesome, and I'm sure he was, way ahead of his time, and he was really, really good. And I don't know what that one-on-one matchup would look like. I can't compare stats. I'm just kind of a casual NBA fan.
Yeah.
But at the very least, LeBron James is way more entertaining to me, or at least his highlight video is.
Yeah.
So, but we did best NBA player. Right now, we are working our way through best TV show, and we just kicked off. I think maybe our favorite one that we've done so far.
I'm really excited to talk about it. And I'm excited to see the results for how people are voting, and they've already been voting.
Me too. And that is the most badass animal. And
Wow.
and we've gotten this question.
Tiger.
What do you mean by badass?
I was talking to a friend this morning.
What did they
think?
think?
I said, did you hear my audio message I sent you about most badass animal? What would you pick? And she said, no, I didn't listen to it. I said, fuck you. And then I said, well, what do you, and she was like, well, what does that mean, most badass? And I was like, well, Chris thinks, a lot of times, which animal, if you put him up, would win in a fight? And for me, it's kind of which animal has something that, unique that, no other animal has? Because that could be pretty badass, too. Yeah. And there's probably even more things.
Yeah.
For how you might view something badass.
Yeah. Maybe which one could survive in a harsher climate. Oh, yeah. That's pretty badass.
Yeah.
You turned me on to the...
Kevin Little?
Yeah.
Do you know that
a lot? No.
Let me hold you, girl, caress my body. You got me going. You know that one. Turn me on. Yeah.
You put me on to the Ibex that I didn't know really what that was. But every time I throw up a matchup on Instagram, I try to search through and find a cool little 10-second clip.
Yeah.
So people can get a visual of the badass animal doing a badass thing. Yeah. And it was the hippo versus the Ibex. In the hippo video, here's another thing. Hippo babies are the cutest babies.
Yeah, you can't. If you throw up a picture of that, hippo's not gonna get the votes because people go, "That's adorable."
Well, but it's crushing. No spoilers, but it's crushing.
Yeah.
So I think maybe just being adorable is badass.
That's true.
Maybe someone thinks badass. But the video of the Ibex was an Ibex running beyond full speed down a mountain, and it was going so fast. In fact, if you want to talk, I can show it to you here, just as a side note. If you want to keep us going.
I will keep us going. So, Ibex, like Chris said, I kind of snuck it on late.
Here we go, the baby hippo.
There's the baby hippo. And for the Ibex...
Sucker, watch how fast it goes.
Oh my god. Jeez. Well, so for the Ibex, just how it looks, I was like,
watch how fast that Ibex
man,
is.
it looks like an old sage on a mountaintop when the full-grown ones with their big beards and big horns. So it's that guy just looks, he knows the secrets of the earth.
Yeah, right.
I was like, that's badass. Sometimes you're just badass looking.
Yeah, exactly, badass looking. Yeah. And then, eventually we're gonna get to pulling teeth, splitting hairs, cutting onions, as we say, and you're gonna have to do okay. So maybe the great white shark is the most badass of the sea.
Mm-hmm.
But on an even playing field, is it more badass than a tiger in the jungle? You don't know.
Who's top predator? Who's scheming?
Yeah.
Maybe you think an animal is able to set traps and plan things, and then that's devious.
Yeah.
That's badass.
Yeah. I know coyotes. Who, spoiler alert, coyotes got waxed by the wolf.
I felt bad. I thought they'd be closer.
Honestly. Me too. I think people just know wolves are bigger, wolves are scarier, wolves are, but coyotes apparently will, in California right now, there's packs of coyotes. They're pretty common in the valley and the little hills. They've become so savvy that they know that howling and coordinating will make it so people will go out and hide. Bring their animals in, so they've learned not to howl.
Oh.
So coyotes in that area don't howl anymore because they get the predatory advantage by not howling and being quiet and communicating maybe other way. Maybe they learn sign language.
Yeah.
Say.
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah, animals be learning.
Yeah, and now we're doing best TV show.
Yeah, best
TV show. So we got a series of matchups here. We're going to go through the full second round. We're going to try to stay on topic as much as possible, but we're here more so to riff, to have fun.
Yeah.
And if we get off on a separate tangent, the hope and the prayer and the dream is, you just along for the ride, because that's what we're doing here. So the first matchup of the second round was Sopranos, which was 1 seed, heavy favorite to go deep.
Yeah.
Versus The Walking Dead, which you ask a general fan, they'll say really good first few seasons. Maybe it's outstaying its welcome by being on. I don't know too many people who are still watching it, but really hard to argue against those first 3-4 seasons. Really, really solid, entertaining show. So,
yeah, it was a massively popular show, and part of me feels like it kind of, and this has died off recently, but the post-show wrap up or breakdown, I feel like Walking Dead was one of the first ones because it had The Talking Dead.
Yeah.
And every week after a new episode, there'd be a half-hour show where one famous host and then a couple other celebrities that were kind of usually comedians would talk about the episode.
Yeah.
And that got popular for a while, and a couple different shows had these recaps after it. But I feel like Walking Dead was the first one that really kind of sparked that not only do you want to have water cooler discussions about what just happened, you want to watch people have the water cooler discussions.
Right, like us, apparently.
Yeah, apparently.
What was the guy? Chris Harmswell?
Yeah, Chris Hardwick.
Hardwick, yeah.
Yeah.
What was his big thing? Because he had a thing
He
before.
did Talking Dead. Oh.
I thought
he...
Was he big in the Comic-Con scene or something?
He was, for sure.
Okay.
There was a channel... It might be back. It went defunct. It was called G4. And it was a gamer channel. And he was not one of the main guys on there for its peak years, but he started coming up through there. But he did a lot of other... Yeah, I think he just did a lot of discussions. And I think he might have even had a podcast. I think he did have he was early kind of adopter on podcasts and talked about maybe superhero stuff, gaming stuff, Walking Dead and things like that.
Okay.
I'm sure if you looked up his podcast, the name would ring a bell to me, but yeah.
Yeah. Shoot, I can do it right now. Why not? We're here for the ride.
Well, so yeah, if you want to look it up, Sopranos and Walking Dead. So yeah, like you said,
Walking
Sopranos was a really heavy favorite.
Yeah.
But I wasn't sure how Walking Dead would do against Atlanta, and it won relatively healthy.
ID 10T with Chris Hardwick on Apple.
Oh, the Nerdist podcast.
Oh my god. I spelled
That's his new one.
How ironic that I spelled it out. Hi!
That does look like a new one.
Hello.
Oh, it's Cody Rhodes.
Whoa!
Hi guys.
How's it going?
Can you help me with something when you have a sec? Sorry for just barging in. I know you're doing a thing.
Yeah, no, it's okay. We will probably be tied to this for another 30 or so, and then it can come out. Yeah.
30's too long.
Nah.
Too long.
Not gonna work for you.
Yeah.
Not gonna work.
All right. Well, I'll be out in 30. No.
But Nerdist podcast, seeing it there because I think this is his current one, the idiot one. But Nerdist podcast was super popular, and I definitely remember hearing about that one. I think that got big. It had its own website too.
Oh, cool.
Really popped off. But as I was saying, Walking Dead, with how well it did against Atlanta, I was thinking, well, Walking Dead is a mainstream popular show that had mainstream critical success as well. It certainly did have its detractors in the later seasons, but I was when it was popular, everybody that watched it liked it.
For sure.
If you hated on it like me, you were just I don't want to watch a zombie show. I'm tired of zombies. Nothing's different. And they're oh, they don't call them zombies. They're walkers, and it's more about the people. And I was don't BS me and pretend you're not a zombie show. I think the guy who created it, and it started as a graphic novel, but I think the guy who created it, and don't quote me on this, I'm quoting as somebody that probably made this up. It's he doesn't want people to call it a zombie show, and I was him. This is a zombie show.
Right.
You didn't create some new highbrow art that nobody's done before. This is zombies. I don't care that you didn't call them zombies.
Yeah.
So I don't know why I'm hating on Walking Dead, but I thought this one could be close.
Yeah. And what we're noticing is Sopranos has their own mafia on Twitter, because every time we throw up the polls, no matter how close they are on the other ones, Sopranos is gonna win because they get retweeted by the big Sopranos fan clubs, which is cool because more people get to engage because they have like huge, hundreds of thousands of followers, tens or hundreds of thousands of followers, and then we see, a pretty close matchup become Sopranos wins by 99% because all the Sopranos fans are coming out. So cool to see, but it's going to be interesting to see how we deal with that in the later run. I don't think we have a plan set in place.
No, and I mean, at the end of the day, like,
We
it's
just-
not like this is like a 15 cult classic show that like we all kind of don't think should be going that far. Like you said, this is a favorite to go to the Final Four. It got a 1 seed, even into the finals. And if on that certain day the big fan base for a show or an animal or an actor or a wrestler comes out, like it just is what it is.
Yeah, for sure.
So Sopranos, had that win over Walking Dead and was our first TV show in the Sweet 16.
Yep.
Unsurprisingly.
Yep. Yeah, it's surprising, not surprising. But then it's going to be going up against the winner of this one, which I've seen both. Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, you haven't seen either.
Not very,
Okay.
I'm very unfamiliar with both of these shows.
Yeah. So I could touch on these ones real quick.
I'd love to hear it. I'd love to get your final. I'd actually like to know which you would pick between these two after you kind of touch on it.
Cool.
And I'm gonna ask you questions and recommendations for what I should see for these.
I can definitely do that. And as I'm thinking out loud right now, this is so off the cuff, we're not even, we didn't really have much of a plan. But why don't we do this one? We'll get through the dramas, we'll stop it, we'll upload this as one pod, we'll do comedies, we'll upload that as a second pod. Just time-wise, I think if we were to do it all, we'd be
Might get
over
a really
an hour.
long one. Yeah.
And,
then you can sneak in before that 30 minutes.
Yeah. So if I'm voting, well, I do vote, but if it was Matt and Chris's decision who moves on, I would actually. It's really close. I would probably go you.
Okay.
And here's why. So I think Dexter had the lower lows. So Dexter had 1, maybe 2 seasons that we kind of skipped, kind of skimmed through them. Yeah, there was a season with Miguel. That's all I know, the guy with Miguel. Whereas you, 4 solid seasons back to back to back. Its weakest season was nowhere near the weakness of Dexter's 2 bad seasons.
Yeah.
But Dexter's highs, I think we're still on par with you. Both cool ideas for a show. Dexter kind of carries the audience through with just the plot alone. Sometimes the acting isn't the best, especially with some of the kids that are in the show. Sometimes the writing was a little but at its core, a serial killer who, he's a forensics expert and he goes out and kills serial killers. Like, that to me is just like a cool enough to like, I'll stay along for the ride, why not? And then you, this like obsessive psychopath that's like very charming on the surface.
Yeah.
I guess Dexter had a little bit of that too, but you very charming on the surface, but has some like serious like abandonment issues going on. So like once he thinks he finds the one, like he like gotcha.
It's a Dennis Reynolds right there.
Yeah.
Maureen Ponderosa.
Yeah, I think if you were to recast you got to put Dennis Reynolds in that role. This would be super funny. But I would probably vote you, but that's not what we saw with the voting. The voting actually had Dexter moving on to the Sweet 16 to face Sopranos. So next up we had Squid Game versus Star Trek, which, fun fact, I just saw Squid Game finally has that 2nd season coming out. So I'm very excited for that on Netflix. And I feel like I mentioned it in our last episode, but worth mentioning again. Squid Game was tough to put on here because it's only been 1 season.
Yeah.
But I've never had a series like embed so deeply in my brain to where I thought about it so much throughout the day, like just from the music to just visually what they do. I remember I was like dreaming about it and I was thinking about it all day, and it just very, very impactful show.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. So this one, like you said, because this was 1 season, and I haven't seen it, but I knew a lot of enough about it despite not seeing it. I kind of knew the premise. I had a good sense of the vibe from it. But with 1 season, I wasn't sure how it was going to do against Star Trek. But I think also with Star Trek on here, it's like, well, this is a show that had its like most impactful seasons early on.
Mm-hmm.
In the way that The Simpsons like was really important in its, first 5 to 10 years, but like it's still running and chugging along, but people don't care as much for it anymore. I feel like Star Trek had like its first few seasons very impactful, very important. But like later stuff, like it was still just kind of for like the hardcore, diehard fans. And like now I think mostly they just do movies. I don't know if they have a current show running for Star Trek. They might have just reboot one. So I didn't know how this was going to go. I would say probably like Star Trek's legacy and impact at this point would probably make me pick it. But I mean, Squid Game is like you said, just so memorable and so impactful as well.
Yeah. Whew. Yeah. So, which one won?
Star Trek did win.
Star Trek.
It stayed pretty close.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a blowout or anything. And I think some people that are like diehard Star Trek fans might have been like, it should be a blowout, but it stayed relatively close.
Yeah. Yeah. And I haven't gotten any, because I didn't really watch the show growing up, but I was expecting we would get people asking like us to specify, was it the original Star Trek or a Next Generation? But we haven't gotten any of that. So we're just kind of lumping them both together as one idea, similar to how, Dexter had the reboot with like Dexter New Blood. It's just all one Dexter. Like, sure, it's the same Dexter, but, cast change or whatever. So,
Oh, interesting.
yeah. And then Star Trek is going to be moving on to the Sweet 16 to face the winner of this weird matchup,
Yeah.
Twilight Zone versus The Wire. I'll let you take this one because I haven't watched either.
Gotcha. Well, I have not seen The Wire, but we've both heard just through years. I've heard it multiple times from different people. Like, oh man, you gotta watch The Wire. The Wire is definitely one of the best shows, and stuff written about it claims it as one of the best shows. And Twilight Zone is another show that's really unique, a lot like Squid Game, or even at times like Star Trek, but probably closer to like a Squid Game in its uniqueness, some of the stories and things that you haven't seen before. But I love Twilight Zone, but I didn't know how it was going to do, and I was like, as good as it is, it's such an old show.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be able to beat The Wire because black and white going to turn people off. Anybody, you might not have seen it. But yeah. Speaking of the Twilight Zone, one of my first Twilight Zone memories was the Tower of Terror in Disney World.
Oh.
Have you ever ridden on that?
Never ridden Tower of Terror. I've only been to Disney. I've only been to Disney World
In Florida.
in Florida, not California. And I know all the separate parks. Like, I tell someone I've been to Disney World, and they're like, "Oh, isn't Epcot cool?" It's just like, well, I haven't been to that one. How many different Disney Worlds are there? I've only been to the Magic Kingdom one.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't think Tower of Terror is in Magic Kingdom.
No, it's not. Magic Kingdom kind of has the classic vintage Disney animated stuff. The Peter Pan ride, if they still have that one.
It's a
Snow White ride. It's a small world.
It's a small world.
It has the Space Mountain area, which is now Star Wars, I'm sure. I think they got rid of, but it still has Space Mountain as a ride. But Tower of Terror is it's a top Disney attraction.
Okay.
Gotta get on that.
Okay. When is it? Because is it just a tower that takes you up and drops you?
It does. It's a tower drop ride.
Okay.
But there's some narrative. There's some theatrics going on.
Okay.
You kind of walk into so it's the Hollywood Hotel.
Okay.
And there's kind of this story told to you as you're walking through that it was for the rich and famous, and one night there's a really bad storm, and this takes place in the 1930s golden age of Hollywood and things like that, and storm strikes the building and cuts the power, and a family there with their kids and stuff on the elevator drops, and they're ghosts now, they killed them and stuff, and so you're riding it again, and a storm happens to come up, and it stops on floors, and you see some stuff, and then drops you once, and takes you up a little bit higher, drops you again, and it's pretty fun. It's a blast.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, Twilight Zone 1.
So, yeah, Twilight Zone 1. Twilight Zone did beat The Wire. I think because of the ride. No,
it's all on the ride.
Mostly for the ride. If The Wire should get a ride, and it might have a better chance. This one is probably we'll look at the other ones coming up, but I think this might be the most shocking result to me
Okay.
from anything we've had in the TV bracket so far. I thought Wire would go deep, even though sometimes I think shows that are like crime drama focused and like police and gangs and detectives are like a little. There's just so many of them. At some point, you gotta say like, here are the 2 or 3 best, and if you're not that one, like.
Yeah.
You know, you're the same as something that's not bringing anything new. We're like Twilight Zone, Squid Game, even like Dexter and You kind of bring something newer to the table.
Yeah.
In terms of like their premise and their setup. So like The Wire for me, I don't really have any interest in ever watching it because it's not really in my wheelhouse. But I thought it would win here for sure. And I thought it would go deeper.
Yeah, me too. And I know one thing about The Wire. It's Eminem's favorite show.
Really?
I've heard him talk about it a bunch of times. And anyone who
Clearly
talks about
he didn't vote.
I know. Come on, Em. Calling you out, Em.
We're gonna stop doing your lyrics
Yeah.
if you don't start voting more.
We might write a diss.
But that was a call. That sounded like a call out.
Yeah.
You want to finish this call out?
Calling you out, Eminem. No, I'm not. He's one of my favorite artists. Just kidding. Would love to meet you one day. And I'm sure it'd probably be boring. Like, no offense, but he just seems like regular conversation. He'd be boring as shit.
You think so?
Yeah, because I don't think being really
Kind of a call out though.
Yeah, a little bit.
You'd be boring as shit, Marshall.
It just doesn't seem like he's fun to be around.
Huh.
You know?
I think
Maybe old Eminem, when he was like always on drugs and drinking, he was a little more free. But I feel like now
he's a bit more low key. But I think, and I don't know, I haven't watched like any interviews or things where he's done, but I'm guessing he always has to talk about rap and 8 Mile and his music and his career. How did he do it and stuff like that. And so you're just so tired of telling that story. But if we had him on here to talk about his favorite TV shows, it'd be pop off.
Yeah,
I think he'd have a good time.
Yeah, anyway.
Come on down.
Yeah, come on. You're invited. You sit right here.
Yeah.
Cool. So we'll talk about these next 4 matchups and call it a day. Again, if we get off on a tangent, don't hold it against us. Or do, whatever. So this one was the battle of Vince Gilligan, who directed Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul.
In Gilligan's Island. It's not true.
He did.
I don't think it is. But
his dad did. Did you know Nicolas Cage is the nephew of Francis Ford Coppola?
I did know that.
Yeah. I forgot the story behind it, other than he's his nephew, but very early in his career, he went by his real name, which is Coppola, ends in Coppola, I think. And someone was like, hey, are you related? And he's like, yeah, but don't put that on me. I'm my own person, whatever. And so he changed his name Nick Cage, and, he did it on his own, kind of. One of them stories.
Nick Cage, he continues to have, like, resurgences, and he, like, I know in Best Actor bracket, he made the bracket.
He did.
And he went up against Bruce Willis in the first round, and I think he won.
Did he win against Bruce Willis, and then he
lost to Tom Hanks?
Yeah,
maybe?
I think that's right.
Maybe he didn't win the first round. He might. I don't know anymore. But I wanted him to win
find out right now.
because I started like realizing like Nick Cage is an entirely different level of actor. He's either so bad and so weird, or like you just think like this is a guy who gets it, and like. I don't know, but Nick Cage is acting, and he's been like in a movie that released recently, Renfield, like a updated kind of vampire Dracula movie.
Oh yeah.
And I think he's been doing the rounds of like late night stuff, and has said some like really weird classic Nick Cage stories. So, he didn't even beat Bruce Willis. You guys got it wrong. Nick Cage, come on.
Either way, either one was gonna get just pulverized by Tom Hanks.
Exactly.
So, with this one,
the Vince Gilligan show.
Yeah, the Gilligans, the skipper. He directed and produced, or only did one of the two. Don't know. But Breaking Bad is my favorite show of all time. Let me specify my favorite drama of all time.
Oh.
Because I'm a comedy guy. Come on. I would put, if I made like a top 5 list of my favorite shows, it would probably be in there, but the first 3...
Do you think the other 4 would be comedies?
Yeah, probably.
Primarily comedy?
Yeah, I think so. It's just what I like. And I've never seen Better Call Saul, so perhaps it's unfair of me to qualify why I think Breaking Bad should win, but Breaking Bad should win. Even talking with fans of both shows, be like, Better Call Saul's really, really good, but it ain't no Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
Breaking Bad just had, it was just the perfect show. So many dramas, as long as the viewership numbers are up and they're getting the numbers, they're going to keep churning out shows. And a lot of them overstay their welcome, or a lot of them kind of crash and burn. A lot of them try to spread the story too thin. Or, Breaking Bad, I felt like, ended at the perfect time. It never, for me, got dull. And just the dynamic of Walt and Jesse, how there'd be like little periods where they're finally on the same page. They're buddies. And it was just the coolest thing because they were always at odds. Oh. And when you would get those moments of they're like, hey, Mr. White, thank you. Yeah. And it was just really cool. It was a really cool story. So Breaking Bad all the way.
Yeah. I have a story about Breaking Bad. As you may know, and if you watched the draft or the first round, I haven't seen it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think when it was airing and it was popular, I want to say this was 2013. Does that seem like a time when it had been out?
Definitely.
Like 2012, 2013. I didn't know anything about it. It maybe had subconsciously, like the phrase Breaking Bad may have subconsciously got into my brain.
Mm-hmm.
But I had this idea because I was like, oh yeah, like Breaking Bad habits. And I was like, but instead of Breaking Bad habits, like bad like things that you do, I was like, what if it's like nuns? Because what they wear is called a habit. And I told like this one guy, I was like, hey, I got this show idea. Like, I was like, what about a show called like Breaking Bad Habits? And it's about like nuns. And he was like, oh yeah, and they're like cooking meth and stuff. And I was like, what? Why? Because I didn't know anything about Breaking Bad. Really? And I was like, I don't know why he said. I was so confused as to why he brought that up. Like why the nuns would like be involved in drugs. I was like, oh yeah, I guess that could be funny too. And then like years later, I realized like why.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe someday there will be a Breaking Bad basically recreation, but just with nuns, and they'll call it Breaking Bad Habits.
So a nun hat is called a habit?
I think their whole outfit is called a habit.
Oh, spelled the same?
Yep.
Really?
Yep.
Write that down. It's a good thing. I learned something new today.
Yeah.
So, surprising, not surprising, Breaking Bad did move on to the Sweet 16 to face the winner of this interesting matchup. Sons of Anarchy versus MacGyver. Wow.
MacGyver. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. Could it be Mac? No, we know it's MacGyver, but...
Yeah. I like MacGruber better.
You're always shouting out MacGruber.
I'm always shouting out MacGruber because the movie was hilarious, and then they did a series off of it, I think on Peacock. Shout out Peacock.
Oh,
the last streaming
the last
that
one
you need. And it's so rare to make a good comedy these days. Like, I love stand-up. I think stand-up's in a great place, but when it comes to like movies and TV, like there hasn't just been like a new good comedy for me in a long, long time. And so I went into that, I was thinking, okay, a MacGruber series, it's going to be super watered down. It's not going to be funny. And boy, oh boy, was I wrong. It is so pushing the envelope. It's raunchy. It's hilarious. Would highly recommend it. But
so let me ask a couple of questions. I'm guessing Will Forte is still reprising his role as MacGruber.
Yeah.
Is it typically, are there like cameos or like mostly like famous people that you recognize in it, or is it mostly like unknowns that are playing like the villains, or I don't know who else would be in the show?
I know the three main cast members came back for it. So
okay.
Will Forte, Kristen Wiig,
yeah.
and Ryan Phillippe are all in it. Yeah, so they all came back for it.
Ryan Phillippe, oh my god, I would never guessed.
In terms of the other casts, I think they're, I don't want to say unknowns, but there's no Tom Cruise, there's no Brad Pitt. It's all actors that you'd be like, where do I know him from?
Okay.
That kind of tier level actors, like actors that have made very successful career for themselves, but they're not, they're not going to be like first build in, an action comedy.
Okay.
You're not going to be like alongside Dwayne Johnson, Dwayne Johnson and this person who you recognize from G.I. Jane.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought the show was awesome.
Well, since MacGruber was so good, did you think that MacGyver would have any chance against Sons?
I was hoping it did.
You could talk more about MacGruber?
Yeah. I mean, MacGyver's such a good spin-off of the original MacGruber.
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. And I don't know. Sons of Anarchy, I have heard good things about it, but very few things annoy me as much as biker gangs. Come on. I've heard, because I know a couple of these guys, and they're like going to these like different conventions, and if one rival biker gang drops a certain color, it means like, oh, shit's about to go down, and it's like, what are you? Elementary school? Like, I just can't imagine a world where like someone drops a color, and I'm like, oh, fuck them.
And then you gotta like gather and like huddle with your group of like 10 other guys and be like, oh, there's trouble. We're gonna have to like.
And then the classic South Park episode about bikers where like they just crave attention. That's why their bikes are so loud. And like the one guy, I'm like taking a pee at a urinal, and there's a biker like a few down.
Revenism.
And he's like, until I go like this, and then once I look at him, then he goes, and he like likes it because he just likes people look at him. He likes the attention. So,
oh my god!
And if you are a Harley rider, I'm not. I don't care. You can come get your panties in a twist.
He dropped that color. He dropped it.
Yeah.
No, I think Sons of Anarchy. Like I think like biker gangs are one of those things that like I don't know what to compare it to, but it's one of those things that like I think probably a lot of what you see from it like publicly are people looking for attention, and so they're very over the top about it, and that is annoying because I think a lot of like true like biker people, I didn't want to say biker dudes because there are biker ladies. I feel like a lot of people that are bikers that are like truly live the lifestyle are also like, no, this like loud like look at me lifestyle is not biker lifestyle, and it's like there's this middle ground that's ruining it for everyone. Not that this has anything to do with the show, but
it has everything to do with the show. It's a biker show.
It could be,
biker
yeah.
Culture.
It could be, yeah. I think it'd be fascinating because I think biker culture. I would be fascinated to watch a show and see how it's portrayed, and I'd be interested to see like if there are bikers, like if they, if this did accurately capture like a lot of things about biker culture, or if they're like, nah, man, this is ridiculous, like nothing like this, or like they tweak things, like you can tell they tweak things. I'm guessing it's that middle one, so I think it's a fascinating thing. It's better to just see another show about doctors. We've got enough of those. One show about bikers, that's cool. We'll move it on.
Right.
And it did beat MacGyver.
It did. So we're gonna get Breaking Bad versus Sons. Two shows that I feel like there's a lot of shows that came out in that like 2008, 2013, between that period. There were really hopping shows. Like Walking Dead, I know came out around that time. Dexter, I think, came out around that time. Breaking Bad, Sons, like all these shows.
I think they were pretty similar around the same time.
Yeah. That was a hot time for shows.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. My initial thinking is like, obviously Breaking Bad wasn't going to lose its first round if we seeded correctly and didn't screw it over, and then going up against kind of like its companion like related show, like obviously like a spinoff, it's gonna probably beat that one, but this could present a challenge. Honestly,
definitely could. So look forward to that.
All right, we've got two more matchups to talk about, and then we've got half of our Sweet 16, the ones in the drama side.
Yeah.
So the next one is a couple more genre shows. X-Files versus American Horror Story. I'm such a massive X-Files fan. And I was so happy to see like a lot of positive comments about X-Files during all the polls that were thrown up. People were like, man, X-Files for life. Like, man, there was some that were like, X-Files sucks. But what?
That was one that went away for about a decade or plus, and then came back, and they
did bring back like 2 or 3 seasons with like the 2 original David Duchovny and
Scully.
Yeah, I'm just gonna have to call her Scully. Oh my god, that's so bad that I don't know her name, but she has a very like general name, like she's like Jennifer Grace or something. It's not like that.
I was gonna say Grace too.
But they're both tremendous, and I don't think like the newer X-Files seasons did well. I think it was one of those things where it's like, they tried to bring back for like nostalgia, but it was a show that came out in its time, and trying to bring it back, it was just like
Gillian Anderson.
Yeah.
Did you watch the new ones at all?
I didn't watch the new ones. But yeah, I think it's phenomenal. I haven't seen much of American Horror Story, but because it's so different each season. You know, if you saw one season, it doesn't necessarily mean the quality is that good or that bad.
Right. You don't need to. If you watch just season 3, you don't need to have watched 1 or 2.
Right.
It's not like a continuation. Each individual season is serialized to where it's like you got to watch episode 1 to you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Each season is individual, but I thought that was a really cool concept for a show. I don't think I've seen any shows that separate the seasons and have like a separate theme and pretty much whole different cast
Yeah.
for each season.
Yeah, that's a really cool thing about it too.
Definitely. But if I'm picking, it's close for me, but I'd probably go X-Files.
Okay. Have you seen any like full seasons of American Horror Story?
Yeah, so I watched the original one.
Mm-hmm.
Then I watched. I'd have to Google it. There's a
Yeah.
clown one.
Okay.
It was.
It's probably like around 4 or 5, maybe.
Yeah, there's a clown one, then like a circus one.
Yeah.
Don't remember the names of them.
Yeah. Carnival, I bet, was one of American Horror Story. Carnival or something, probably.
Yeah, they were good.
Freak Show. One was called Freak Show. That one might have been the clown or carnival one.
Yeah.
I'm almost positive one was called Freak Show.
Yeah.
I would have wanted to watch that one. I would like it. I need to watch more American Horror Story.
Mm-hmm.
X-Files has some really incredible highs. I would go X-Files.
Mm-hmm.
Who ended up winning?
X-Files. Your
Yes!
show on Sweet 16.
I was so pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
And so it moved on to the Sweet 16, and there was one more matchup, and this is like my other, like of all the dramas that got picked, like X-Files and Game of Thrones are like 2 of my honestly favorites. And when X-Files won and there was a chance that if Game of Thrones could beat Ozark, I was like, oh my god, that's the dream matchup for me. Couldn't believe I'd finally get it. But it was going up against Ozark. And I was like, I wasn't sure Game of Thrones would win its first round. I didn't know how badly the last season and last few episodes tarnished its legacy.
Mm-hmm.
And it beat like a current show that's pretty popular in Yellowstone, but going up against Ozark, which has had a bit more and even a bit more popular, I was like, I don't know. I'm Game of Thrones 100%.
Mm-hmm.
But if Ozark wins, I get it, but I would be sad.
Yeah. I love Ozark. One of my favorite shows, but I did run the gauntlet with my wife Emily. She had seen Game of Thrones before and watched the whole series. Yes, I was disappointed with the last couple episodes, but the journey alone was worth it, in my opinion. And I still would give the nod to Game of Thrones.
Nice.
Just how grand of a scale it was all done, the production value, just all the effort that went into creating that show, and just the story arcs. And it's not usually the kind of show I'd gravitate towards. In fact, it took me a good maybe first full season before I'm like, all right, I can do this. And we would trudge along very slowly, maybe an episode or 2 a week, but we finished the series. And as much as I love Ozark, Game of Thrones.
Yeah, it's one of those shows for me. Typically, like your story, your narrative, your writing is how I'm picking my own personal favorite show, and I'm usually not taking into consideration like production, the man hours, special effects, and things like that. But if there's one show that like makes you stop and go, wow, like you have to give a lot up for like the sets they built and the amount of people they coordinated in real life to do like these like 30-minute long battle sequences, and filming probably for hours just to get a couple minutes. Like Game of Thrones is impressive in its production, and I don't know if there's another TV show in it right now that is anywhere close to the amount of production and money that went into like making an episode.
Totally.
Yeah. So Game of Thrones did move on, and I've got my dream matchup. I think we're just gonna have me like riff on these 2 shows. I'm gonna rewrite from the end of, I think there was 8 seasons of Game of Thrones. I'm gonna rewrite Game of Thrones from season 7 and change it so everybody loves it. I'll do a 30-minute video. I'll just record it in my bathroom or something and let you guys know how it should have ended. Change everything. I'll give you my top X-Files episodes, the ones that you gotta see. I'll give you my top Game of Thrones characters. I will dress up as in my Peter Baelish costume, Littlefinger, my favorite character from Game of Thrones. I'll have to remember to bring that costume when we talk about it. But yeah, I love that guy. And but yeah, Game of Thrones moved on. We've got our dramas half filled out for our Sweet 16. Just recapping: Sopranos, Dexter, Star Trek, Twilight Zone, Breaking Bad, Sons of Anarchy, and X-Files, Game of Thrones. I think there's some really good representation with these 8. There's a lot of like very reality-based shows that are like dramas, Breaking Bad, Sopranos, Sons, and then there's some good like sci-fi and fantasy and kind of like short story like Twilight Zone, X-Files, Game of Thrones, and Star Trek. So I think this is a really cool 8 for drama that I actually would not have predicted. I didn't think the genre shows were going to do as good.
No, me neither.
But I'm glad.
It's cool. And, you know, even the old school fans, like old school TV, like, you know, you got your Twilight Zone.
Oh, yeah.
X-Files was 90s. Star
Trek's older,
you
yeah.
got a
Old
lot
as hell.
it really is. So, cool.
All right.